just happy to, to be invited. I'd asked if one of us wanted to say a few words, and just wanted to say how incredibly excited we are that this project has come to this point in time. We're really looking forward to hearing the presentations. We know what a challenge it has been, but it is my understanding from participating a couple of times and talking with Nordaid and some of the students that this is just a model for what's possible in these collaborations. So congratulations to everyone ahead of time. I'm sure it's going to be wonderful. We're really looking forward to hearing about the projects.
I could not have said it better myself. This was certainly a very unusual term, and things have gone very, very well. But rather than taking my word for it, why don't we hear from the students? So we're going to go alphabetically, starting with the team who had World Vision Armenia as their sponsor. You should be able to share your screen.
Yep. I'm making my way.
There we go.
Maddie, it's not in presentation mode.
I know I'm launching.
Oh,
Are you seeing me launching?
Aaron, you might need to review your alphabet again.
Yes, that's the joke. But anyway, take it away.
All right, thank you everyone for coming to our first ever virtual IQP presentation. We just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge and thank everybody who has supported us through this whole semester project. It really would not have been possible without all of you. We're going to give you a little background on our project and then go through our objectives and finally our results and what we were able to develop in terms of resources for poverty reduction in Armenia. My name is Lauren Kaya.
I'm Maddie Barnard.
I'm Lilith Randelian.
And my name is Christopher Tachi. And we're first going to start by taking a look at the three key stakeholders that we identified for this project: World Vision Armenia, Fundación Paraguaya, and the Armenian population. So World Vision Armenia was our sponsor for this project, and specifically, we worked with Aida Muradian, a program manager at World Vision, and she provided us with resources, connections, and all sorts of advice throughout the entire semester, which we utilized to develop our project. Fundación Paraguaya is the organization that developed the Poverty Stoplight program, which is the focal point of our project and what we've built everything around. And finally, most importantly, is the Armenian population for whom this entire project is designed for. Tying directly into our primary project goal, to support impoverished Armenians in addressing high priority, high impact needs. So we recognize that there's obviously many different dimensions of poverty, and certainly not enough time within a single semester to be able to research all of them, let alone address all of them. And so in designing our project, we created a realistic primary project goal, which was to make sure that all the research and development we did was pertinent to the Armenian families that it was going to be for. And a bit of background and kind of information of where we came from and how we got here. About 25% of the Armenian population, which is around 750,000 people, live under the poverty line based on a 2017 economic study. The important thing to note too about this study is that this metric being used was based entirely on income, and so it didn't include other dimensions of poverty such as access to food or clean water. In addition to this, our project is also a continuation of one that was started last year called Empowering Armenians with Poverty Stoplight, in which that team adapted the Poverty Stoplight survey for Armenia.
So first we need to look into what is poverty stoplight. As we know, different families experience poverty differently, and to understand these differences and to motivate families to overcome their poverty, Poverty Stoplight Survey was born. The pre-survey gathers basic demographic information about the family. The core of the survey are the indicators. The Armenian version has 55 indicators, and it was adapted for Armenia by 2019 IQP team. The surveyor reads the indicator and chooses which color represents their family situation best. where red indicates extreme poverty, yellow poverty, and green known poverty. The final part of the survey, which is the life map, is where families decide which indicators are their priorities and what are the steps they will take to address these issues.
So to achieve our overall project goal, we broke it down into 3 objectives: updating the Poverty Stoplight Survey, creating training materials about Poverty Stoplight in Armenian, and designing a solutions library that addresses the high priority, high impact needs outlined by the Poverty Stoplight Survey.
So to make sure that the Poverty Stoplight Survey is ready for 2020, we did 2 changes to indicators. We made sure that the translations to Armenian are done properly, and we communicated with Poverty Stoplight Technology team to upload the Armenian version of the survey to the Poverty Stoplight platform, where it can be taken by using a mobile application or the desktop version. It was very important for us that the Poverty Stoplight survey is understood by the Armenian NGOs and social workers. So to achieve this goal, we made 3 training videos. The first one, called What is Poverty Stoplight, explains the philosophy behind the survey and why is it useful and exciting. The second training video, called How to Take Administrate, can be used by both social workers and the people who are interested in taking the survey, and it walks the user into the demo environment where they can take it. The third training video is mostly concentrated on social workers and NGOs, and it explains all the tools which help understand the gathered data.
So the idea behind our third objective, the solutions library, was to provide preventative strategies for families and NGOs who are using the Poverty Stoplight Survey. So our solutions library is hosted on a website through WordPress. We took the 55 indicators on the survey and broke them up into 6 categories, which you can see on the right: utilities, government, housing, health, finances, and education, just to streamline the information and reduce redundancy on the website and make the website more user-friendly as well. In order to populate these pages, we performed research rotations, where each team member would get 1 or 2 categories per week, and we'd rotate weekly so that we could all add resources and information that we found ourselves, and censor and edit for accuracy and relevance of information. But the majority of the information on these pages was obtained through interviews and resources that we got from professors at the American University of Armenia, NGO professionals who do social work, and of course feedback from our sponsor, World Vision. Now these resources were really helpful to include on our website and in the solutions library because they provided local and relevant, accurate, and up-to-date information for us to use, which can often be hard to find in individual research, especially remotely. Now the overarching goal and kind of focus of the website is preventative strategies rather than curative strategies, because in preventing something from happening, hopefully it won't happen in the first place, like poverty.
All right, and then we're going to show you the website. So we put all of that information into this website that's hosted by WPI. So there's a couple key sections: the solutions library, printables, since we know the information does have to be distributed to families that might not necessarily have internet access, some information about Poverty Stoplight, as well as the demo environment, and a contact us form. So this is the landing page. It's kind of like a sampler of the website because it has like a welcome section, and then it has a little section on the solutions libraries. Each of these pictures is clickable and will lead you to the homepage for each section, which is also navigable using this top menu. The blurb on the printables and the Poverty Stoplight Survey as well. All of these main top categories are in English and Armenian, as well as most of the content in the solutions library, which is navigable using this top drop-down menu here. And then to give you an example of the solutions library, we're going to go to finances. This is the finances homepage. It's been broken up into 3 key sections: debt, job skills, and planning. I'm going to show you job skills. So it first starts with a little blurb about what job skills are and why it's important to market yourself, some information on resumes and cover letters. You will see hyperlinks throughout the site. They're one of 3 things: either a reference to another page within our site, a reference to an outside website with useful information, or a link to a printable. And then if we continue to scroll down, there's some more information about hard skills versus soft skills. And then our resources section, which is 100% links to outside websites. We tried to make sure that they were all in Armenian, so they would be the most accessible. And then at the bottom, we have our references, if you ever want to see those. The next section is printables. They're broken down into each of our subcategories. They come in a variety of forms, such as pamphlets, flyers, worksheets. I'm going to show you a pamphlet under personal identification. So this contains like all of the information under our personal identification page under government, and it's in the printable form, so it can be printed out and passed out based on what you need. And then one of our last sections is the Poverty Stoplight survey. Here we have some information about Poverty Stoplight, the training video, the first training video Lilith mentioned. And then if we continue to scroll down, we will hit the Armenian survey information that includes the training video on how to take the survey, as well as the login information for the demo environment for the survey in Armenian. We chose to keep it in a demo environment because we weren't sure about the validity of the data. We weren't sure if people would just want to look at it or fill it out all the way type of thing. We are passing along real logins to our sponsor, which gives them the ability to use the mobile app, which leads to offline abilities, as well as the data analytics capabilities, which are described more under this page called For Social Workers, where it describes the data analytics capabilities a little bit more along with this video. They include things like georeferenced maps, percentages of what color for each indicator, different families' priorities. So it's some useful information there. And then last but not least is the Contact Us section. This website is a work in progress, and so if you see anything going through the website that you would like added, or you would just like to give some feedback, we list our email as well as we have a little Contact Us form. I will drop the link to this website in the Zoom chat once this presentation is done.
And finally, we'd like to discuss some of our conclusions and recommendations from the past semester. So we believe that the website is a terrific resource for both families and community social workers. The information is straightforward and easy to access. It's highly informative, and it's relevant, and it's tailored towards Armenians. In addition to this, with the increased use of the website comes the increased distribution of the Poverty Stoplight tool. And just like most surveys, the more people use the Poverty Stoplight tool, the more accurate it can become. So as people start to use it more and more, we get a better sense of what poverty looks like countrywide where it's used in Armenia. On top of all this, we've outlined several projects in our report that can be turned into future IQPs or potential local Armenian community projects. And these include things such as a waste management project, where people could look for alternatives to burning trash or using illegal dump sites, which are 2 very common practices in Armenia at the moment. And then finally, we're very confident that the project is in a great place for continuation. As more data is picked up and collected from the survey, it allows for more information to be placed on the website and more relevant information depending on what poverty looks like. As more NGOs are created, they can be added as resources, and certainly as new ideas or certain types of solutions are thought of, they can be added to the pages. And so it's a very dynamic environment where people are always able to make changes. Now, overall, we recognize that one website isn't going to change poverty in Armenia, and it's certainly not going to just get rid of it. Poverty in Armenia, like everywhere else in the world, is highly dependent on who is experiencing it, where they are, and a lot of different details about those people. For some, it's easy to escape, and for others, it can be very difficult. Our project is one more resource that people will be able to use so that they can break that cycle. And so we hope that with the continuation and with the continued support of NGOs like World Vision Armenia, people will be able to utilize this resource in order to end poverty in their family. Thank you.
Excellent. I concur with Martine Burt, who in the chat said, "Excellent presentation on the stoplight. Congratulations." And from Sophia has said the same thing. So, a round of virtual applause for the World Vision team. Does anyone have any questions? There is a mechanism to raise your hand virtually in a participant list, but I think we can do it with people just unmuting themselves and asking a question if they have one.
This is Mike Agajanian. Thanks very much for all the work you did. It was a very, very good presentation. The question I have is, the website, I think that's excellent. It was in English. Is there an Armenian version of that?
Yeah, so all the pages are translated into Armenian. Most of the Solutions Library content is. Some of it isn't, just because we wanted it to be able to participate in all parts of it and not just translate.
Yeah, so we were 1 Armenian and 3 Americans. So most of the stuff on the website is translated. And Maddie sent the link in the chat, so you guys can look at it if you would like to.
Now, all of you can speak Armenian now, right?
I might be able to pick up a few words here and there.
One of the things that I was wondering, is there access to resources that, like job sites or, places where they could get access to material goods if they needed them, or where they could get training?
Yes. So for many of the pages on the Solutions Library, a large portion was dedicated to resources. So you saw that section that was specifically just links for resources. So if people wanted to click out, let's say on the job skills page, or for secondary education, there's links to official Armenian government websites, and there's lots of phone numbers and contact information for people to be able to utilize. In addition, a lot of that information is also provided because even if the individual family members are not able to contact it themselves, our hope is that social workers working with those families would be able to utilize those resources in addition to what they already have to help those families.
So this tool, it's a tool for social workers, right? It's not a tool for the individual people, is it?
It could definitely be a tool for individual families who have internet access and can use it. But we tried to create it with both people in mind.
All right, then just my last, I don't want to monopolize, but I'm assuming you guys are going to be able to put this all into a neat package for me so that we can build on it next year.
Yeah, we're already starting preparation of making sure that all the documents that we have, like in our Google Drive, are in a nice package for like next year's team to be able to utilize. Like everything's all labeled and named, so it should be very easy to use. And I'm sure some of us will be available next year to assist if the team needs it as well. Can
you make sure I know where it is?
Yes, we will make sure you get that information.
All right, thank you.
Me too, Christopher. I'd like to tell the group, apart from I'm amazed, earlier this morning, the Paraguay WPI IQP team presented, and they presented three projects, but one of them was training material for the indicator of the poverty stoplight related to family budgets and savings and family savings. So actually, every indicator is prone to receive this kind of training material by WPI students, and actually they did a great work. So you would like, I can send you that material also. The poverty stoplight is very useful for for everyone just to see the whole picture, but also to zero in on some. And soon, many IQP projects from WPI working all over the world will be able to benefit from this methodology, including the US, because as of Friday, we have Dallas, Texas joining upstate New York, New Orleans, North Carolina, and Orange County using the stoplight in the US.
Great, that's very exciting. I don't want to miss it. I see that Yulia Dunn, you have your hand up.
Yeah, hi, that was a great presentation. I just had a quick layout question. I hope everyone can hear me.
Yes.
So with the website itself, you have the strategies on the homepage right up front and center, and then you have to scroll down a way to get to the Poverty Stoplight survey. And I was just wondering why you chose that layout. I feel like as someone who would go to that website first off should immediately be seeing that survey so they know to take it and to understand what strategies they might need.
So I can take this. Part of it is that the solutions library section is very visual. And so we wanted to make sure it was visually attractive and not just like a wall of text to someone first coming on. And part of it was the demo version of the survey was like a later development. We knew for sure that we were going to be able to have the solutions library, and we weren't sure about how the demo environment and login would really work, but we were lucky enough to be able to work with the Poverty Stoplight technology team and get that in place. Does that answer your question?
No, it doesn't. So now that you've got the demo in place, why didn't you move it up? I don't understand. You could have made it a graphic. I'm wondering why you put the solutions below the survey, because the survey seems like the first step. So I feel like that would make sense to be an initial aspect of the website. So I'm wondering why that's below now that you do have all of the demos in place.
So,
I would,
oh yeah, you can keep going, Maddie.
I would say part of it is also because we were thinking that there was a possibility of later on not just individuals taking it on this website, but also like people have already taken it through social workers giving it out and then are directed to the website as part of it.
The Solutions Library was a huge part of the work we did this term as well. So we kind of wanted to highlight all of those resources we have there.
Okay, great. Thank you. That was really helpful. I didn't realize that this is a website someone would be directed to after they'd probably already taken the survey. So that's really, that's good.
And I see Cynthia has her hand up. You're all much better at Zoom than I am. This is so orderly.
Yeah, great job, guys. That was, very professional. I loved your PowerPoint presentation. I just had a question, about the videos. I'm just kind of curious, and sorry about the dog in the background, but how long are the videos, and did you create those videos? And are they in Armenian or English?
I'll take this. So the first survey is, we have taken the video from the Poverty Stoplight promotional material. It's in Armenian, but has English subtitles, so it can be used by future IQP teams as well. The second and third videos, they go over the Poverty Stoplight platform. The first one goes over how to take it. It's like me filling out the survey and explaining it. It's in Armenian. And the third one is showing the data analysis tools, and it's also in Armenian.
And how long are they? How many minutes?
I think they're around 5 to, so the first one is around 3 minutes, the second one is around 6, 7, around that. So not so long.
Okay. And then just a quick follow-up. I mean, maybe you might want to add a page where it has, pictures of the social workers and helps people to get help with social workers. Maybe, like make them a little more accessible with a description of who the social worker is, and maybe people can click on and just reach out, like maybe put their name with their email address so that somebody could just email them for help. Instead of having to go through a contact page, because sometimes it feels like it just goes into a, you know, dark pit. They don't know who it's going to. So
Yeah, a bit disconnected.
Yeah, that's definitely a step for the future, because the website was our main focus this term, but Ida from World Vision has connections with a lot of the social workers who we would have worked with in Armenia remotely. That wasn't so feasible.
Anyway,
Excellent.
great job. Great project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the next team we'll be hearing from is from Junior Achievement Armenia. While they're setting up, I want to mention I think Lilith is being too modest. I believe those videos were originally in English and then she dubbed over them with her translation of it in Armenian, unless I am mistaken. But that did not take as long as I thought it would to set up. So this is the Junior Achievement team. I'd like to note this team overcame some particular hurdles in that the Armenian member, Rosie, was in Armenia during both C and D term. And for D term, Zhang Xuan has been in China. So they are the team that has had the most challenging finding a good time to do Zoom meetings. Please.
So hello, everyone. So our team consists of me, I'm Bailey, Jimmy, Zhongshuan, and Rosie, and we're going to be presenting about our project to improve the recognition of Junior Achievement of Armenia. So Junior Achievement of Armenia is a nonprofit organization that aims to teach Armenia's younger generations entrepreneurial, social, and creative skills that they can use in the future. They teach those skills through project-based learning, where students have the opportunity to write a business plan and actually start a business. Our sponsor, Armenia Hovanesian, the executive director of JAA, came to us with the problem that they're not widely known in Armenia. So despite being integrated into most schools, students kind of go through the course not understanding that it's separate from the school curriculum. And because it's run solely on donations, that's kind of a large problem. So as you can see, the goal of our project was to improve the overall recognition of JAA in Armenia and in the eyes of potential donors. So to do this, we decided to update the content and design of the website so that anyone who wants to research JAA has up-to-date information. Social media was also a really important part of any modern brand, as it is a way for JAA to highlight personal testimonials and success stories, and for people to get a quick glance at the mission and value of JAA. We also decided to measure how alumni perceive JAA, as they were a large resource and it wasn't really utilized. And then once we knew how alumni perceived JAA and wanted to be engaged, it was imperative that we use that knowledge to their advantage and improve the connection between them and their alumni. So next we're going to go into the methods that we use to approach each objective. We wanted to determine alumni's perception, specifically because alumni have had the chance to use their skills in the real world. To determine how alumni perceive JAA, we created a survey with 3 parts. The first one over basic demographics of alumni, such as age, sex, employment status. The next one over questions relating to the value the alumni felt they got from the program. And the last one over how alumni wanted to be connected to JAA through social media and events. So the survey's purpose was to, 1, gather data about the alumni, and 2, gather success stories and testimonials for advertising purposes. Because we received over 250 responses, we decided we could not translate all of them, all of the open response answers. So to determine which responses we would translate, we set criteria such as if they answered the question fully and if they consented to us using their information. And then luckily, Rosie speaks both Armenian and English, so she was able to scan through the answers and translate the ones that fit the criteria. When analyzing the data, we were able to determine the percentage of respondents in each demographic group, and also how many respondents agreed that JAA gave them the skill we had listed.
To update JAA's website, we started by looking at the websites of JAA USA and JAA Worldwide and seeing what design elements we could use. We discovered that JAA Worldwide has a style guide to be used by all JAA websites. With this inspiration and guidance, we started by designing prototypes, at first on paper and later in Photoshop. Since the written content was still being edited, we first implemented the website's navigation and footer. We then hosted the website with the Photoshop templates so we can get critiques from our sponsor. Once a section of content was ready, we coded it using the template. While coding, we made decisions by choosing what would lead to a website which is easy to edit and fast to load. As we were implementing the website, we started the website manual. This document explains the technologies the website uses and describes in detail how to perform certain edits on the website, for example, changing the logo or adding a new page. To develop recommendations for a social media strategy, we first wanted to do some initial research into companies that are well known in Armenia, such as Iran and Arat Brandi, as well as other JA organizations. We compared the platforms they were on, the frequency of posts, and the kinds of posts they made. To develop a deeper sense of what goes on behind the scenes of social media, we interviewed Anna Deely, who handles all social media for the WPI Office of University Advancement. We wanted to know more about the schedule of posts, which types of posts perform the best, and how to audit a social media account to see which posts perform the best.
So to develop an alumni outreach strategy, we refer to WPI strategy. We interviewed office director in WPI, which manages alumni engagement and community relations. We asked how alumni engages and connect with alumni. For example, what kind of events they host for alumni, how often they reach out to them, and how they manage communication with them. So to eliminate potential culture differences, we also interviewed AUA office manager of alumni relation. To aid in engaging alumni, we created a database on Excel for contact information, contact preference, and where JA course was taken. We also created a link on the website that allows alumni to sign up for newsletter, which will add their name and contact information to another database in Google Sheet.
Now we'll talk about results and recommendations. We received 250 responses in Armenian and 16 in English for our alumni perception survey, which were not only from the alumni, but also from students and teachers of JA. We paid attention to the quotes and success stories of alumni to share them on social media and the website of JA in order to show the values and works of JA based on the opinion and achievements of alumni. We learned that JA includes and encourages the participation of physically disabled children in their programs, which is uncommon in Armenia. With the help of JA, one student with disabilities gained the skills needed to create her own non-governmental organization that helps and encourages people in need. Also, we found it is a big experience for school students who make their first steps in understanding business plan and the labor market. Some students shared that the visit of business professionals to their classes was a great motivation for them to grow and become a good specialist in the future. In the graph on the left side, you can see the current status of JA students and alumni. As you can see, a majority of them are employed. On the right side, it shows types of jobs that JA alumni are employed after graduation. We found that 73% of people learn of JA in school. This is important because this shows where JA should focus their advertising and branding. These data are also biased because all the people who took the survey most likely found value in. We recommend continuing the use of the survey to get as many responses as possible because continuing the survey will help to get more valid results on what alumni think of JA's programs and what they want to see from JA in terms of engagement.
The website has several pages, but here are some key points of interest for the average user. The About Us page is one of the most important, as the majority of people who visit the website will be there to learn about JA for the first time. It describes JA's mission, impact, and team. Next, the Programs page describes each of JA's current student and teacher programs, along with student testimonials. The How Can I Help page describes the 3 ways people can support JA's mission. And the footer contains additional contact information so the community can ask questions and send feedback. To keep the information of the website relevant, we recommend JA update the testimonials, news, and events monthly, and review all other content yearly. To make sure it is as easy as possible for a sponsor to make changes to the website, we recommend using our website manual. This includes information on how to handle specific scenarios and follow best practices.
We adapted the SMART goal to provide a social media strategy. We want to make sure the strategy can be tracked with meaningful metrics such as shares, followers, comments, and more. Our sponsor can measure progress from utilizing the strategy and see if any adjustments need to be made. We compare social media strategy from famous or related brands. We learned that they all use Facebook and Twitter, which allow the organization to gain a wider audience. Furthermore, they all have highlighted story on Instagram, which is a great way to make sure people have access to the content without being overwhelmed. Highlighted story about faculty, alumni, and students would also often get the most interactions. From interview with Anna Daly, we also learned that it's beneficial to print out a monthly calendar and write down the general idea of the post we'll have on each day. From the survey, we gain insight about which platform is most used and type of post alumni want to see. On our survey, respondents ranked the use of each platform on a scale of 0 to 5, 0 being not used at all and 5 being used a lot. The chart is showing the added results for each platform. According to result, Facebook and Instagram are used most frequently. When it comes to the type of posts, we recommend all of the following, as they were equally well received by the survey respondent. We created an Instagram account for JA. However, the JA only uses a Facebook group, not a page. The Facebook group for JA is very active, but it's hard to filter through the post for most important information. While a Facebook page is more beneficial for JA to promote and announce most important information, such as news and events, and it also reaches a wider audience.
With more engaged alumni, there will be additional opportunities for fundraising and more awareness of the value that the program brings to students. Based on the interviews with faculty in the alumni offices of WPI and AUA, we've found many suggestions for JA to engage alumni better. For staying connected with the alumni, we suggest sending emails once a week. JA should offer an unsubscribe option for people who may not want to stay as connected as others. We recommend planning more events for alumni to network and engage with each other. A great event to begin with is an annual reunion of alumni. When holding an event, it is also a great opportunity to take photos for social media and the website. Small branded gifts are also a good option to get a brand name out there, especially if the gift is something usable like a pen. Since all students should have books or handouts used for the program they're in, branding those items clearly is a good way to make sure students know where the course is from. And even when they graduate, by looking at the item, they can remember and stay connected with JAA. We wanted to increase recognition of JAA beyond those who are already familiar with the program. We surveyed alumni and found out the value that JAA brought to their lives and also how they would like to be engaged. We researched and then shared the values of JAA alumni on the website and social media, which is an assurance that the curriculum of JAA covers essential skills and knowledge needed for jobs. As we created strategies to engage the alumni and share their stories with the society, alumni became the potential representatives and sponsors of the work of JAA. Alumni appreciated our work, and now they're apt to be engaged and contribute to the development and expansion of JAA. With the help of our strategies showing the values and achievements of JAA, many people will be motivated to donate money for their works. Our work benefits the efforts toward increasing the recognition of JAA, and we hope our work will promote the expansion of JAA to more students and schools.
Our team would like to thank our sponsors, the members of Junior Achievement of Armenia, specifically Armenia Hovhannisyan, Amahit Manukian, and Cynthia Toussaint. We would also like to thank our advisors, Aaron Sekulich and Raya Ben-Ohenian. And I want to thank you all for attending our presentation. Are there any questions? And also we will link to the website and in the chat.
If I may, I just wanted to say something. This team was just amazing to work with. And they were extremely skilled, and we worked, before I could even finish something, they had made the changes and I could see it on Zoom and on the screen. And it was just such a pleasure working with such competent young people. And above all, I think the greatest skills they had was listening, because when we said something, they listened to it and they responded very quickly. Thank you very much to the team and the university for this great program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you too.
And do I see correctly, Narek Gazarian, you have your hand up?
Yes, I do. Hi, everyone. I'm Narek. I'm the communications director at AUA. Just really wanted to congratulate you guys for this awesome work. I love Armenia Hovanesyan, and I love junior achievements. So I was very much looking forward to this presentation. So great work. I know it's really hard to do a lot of surveys in Armenia. Our alumni department, we try to do surveys all the time, and it's really difficult to get a lot of responses. So getting 266 responses, I'm sure took a lot of effort. So kudos to that effort. Just, you know, from a communications marketing perspective, it's as a recommendation or something to also consider is, you know, the student faces and their stories really encourage people and connect them with the audiences. So as much of the alumni stories we're sharing, the current students or members in junior achievements, as much as we could share their stories with their pictures, will really engage people into junior achievements and so on. And also congratulations for using the right AUA logo on this presentation. And I'm shocked you guys did not use the AUA social media channels as an area of expertise. You guys had to go to our Brandy, but that's okay.
Next time. Thank you.
Some of that may be my fault. I know very little about social media and a great deal about Ararat Brandy, so I may have steered them in the wrong direction.
All right, that's good. It's great brandy, so absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a question to the team. This is Mike Agajanian. So you've done some fantastic work here. Do you have ideas of work that needs to be done going forward to take this all the way through to complete implementation?
We definitely want to continue the survey just because 260 is a lot, but it's not like statistically significant or anything like that. And if we wanted to do a look at how demographics see the value of JAA differently, maybe like if females found it way more valuable than males, maybe looking into that would be a lot more interesting. But to do that, we would need to continue the use of the survey. Yeah, I think, did that answer your question?
Right. And also for the website, something we didn't get a chance to do was to make an Armenian translated version, but we do have instructions on how they could add that in the future in the website manual.
So is there a section in your report that describes the future next steps that need to be taken?
We have recommendations, so that's kind of the future steps, but I don't think this is like a poverty stoplight situation where it's like someone else in the future takes the same project. I think it's more of a just taking the recommendations and seeing where it goes.
No, I don't agree with that, because I mean, you described a ton of channels to reach alumni, and there's a tremendous amount of content that needs to be developed in order to accomplish that. So I think you need think about how another team of WPI students could pick this up and take it to the next level. I think you've done a great job getting it to where you've got it to, but and that's a sign of a good project, that it's actually worthy of continuing. So I would emphasize that. And then, did you develop any content or templates for content?
For the website?
Not just the website, but social media. Did you have a calendar of contacts and what would be what kind of information would be contacted on what dates and the like?
No, that was all kind of in the recommendations. We started making a few posts for like testimonials, and I don't know if you've like heard of Canva, but we use that to make the graphics. So we kind of started them off. We've made a few just to start them off, and then we're gonna just have it continue.
Okay, so one of the things that, I mean, it's to manage what you've described is actually a very challenging thing, right? I mean, it's a lot of work, and making it structured so that Armenia and her team can execute against that is going to be very important. You've only got a couple more days left in the quarter, but if you can put some time into figuring out how that would work, I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, definitely. We'll look into that. Thank you.
Bailey, if I may chip in here, two things. The poverty stoplight in Paraguay is in many of the indicators of the poverty stoplight are inspired by junior achievement training material. Second, I am the junior achievement representative for Paraguay, and I have been working for 25 years, and we have the same situation in Paraguay, that it's difficult to get corporate sponsors because the legislation does not allow them to discount their taxes. So what we have done is we have adapted many many junior achievement programs so that the first learning activity is actually for the children to raise the money and to not need corporate sponsors. And we developed something that is called the School Enterprise Challenge that reaches 100% of the schools in a self-financing way, where we have turned junior achievement into a competition between schools. And of course, that's what kids love, beating the other school. They will get the money there. So let me agree with Michael that I would like to support the continuation of this junior achievement for 2021. And we can really have add innovation on how to raise local money through learning, project-based learning activities. And it's a fabulous thing what you have done. Congratulations to you and your team, Bailey.
Thank you. That's a great success.
It's an amazing thing. And youth entrepreneurship in general and financial literacy are key to having a population with self-confidence. So I'm with you 100%. Okay, so don't go away.
And we would love to support with the social media content development, strategy, guidelines, and all that stuff. Just an FYI from AUA's perspective. We'll be happy to kind of consult with you guys and so on and so on. So let us know. We're ready to help on this end also.
Great, thanks.
And as one final question, I see Cynthia has her hand up.
Okay, thank you. Hey guys, really great job. I mean, I'm really blown away by how much you accomplished. And when you were talking about the survey, I didn't even imagine you would actually do the survey. So you took it beyond expectations. So that's really great, getting 266 respondents. Just out of curiosity, how did you do it? I mean, how did you, and I think the survey in and of itself raises awareness. I mean, so however you accomplish that, if you could, and I'm sure Armenia helped, but maybe you could just share briefly with us.
It was a lot of Armenia's work. So thank you to Armenia. She reached out to the regional representatives and had them contact the alumni that they knew and ask them to take the survey. And then we also had it posted on the Facebook group. I think one of the alumni actually posted it and said, please do this. So it was great to have an actual alumni help us rather than just 4 strangers.
Okay, great. That'll be exciting to, read the results of that. And the website looks really great. I saw you did it you said GitHub. Did you use WordPress or what's the tools that you use to build it?
No, it's not using WordPress. It's just static content. So JA already has a server, which is a PHP server. So we're going to upload the content to that server. And the technologies we used in building the website was Node.js and handles bars and gulp and a long list.
But do you think we should switch to WordPress, or do you think it's
like that's something you could do. I personally would not recommend it. Like seeing how Junior Achievement Armenia already has a server hosted, there's not really a reason to switch to WordPress.
Okay, great.
That must have been a very thorough technical answer, and I can say that because I didn't understand a word of it. So, a virtual round of applause for the Junior Achievement team, and the team that is up next is the one that was sponsored by the State Tourism Committee. While they're getting their presentation uploaded, I will just say I was very excited to advise this team because, as you can tell from my background, I am an expert on Armenian tourism, currently being in view of Ararat. Anyway, take it away.
Can everyone hear me? Awesome. So, hello everyone. Our project was to complete a short-term marketing strategy for recovery of the tourism economy in Armenia. So, tourism makes about 44,500 jobs and about 3.9% of the total employment in Armenia, so not including hotels, restaurants, or performance halls. However, now with COVID-19, most, if not all, of the jobs have been put on pause. So, my name is Catherine Rosvac, and I'm a student at Worcester Polytechnic Institute.
Hello, everyone. My name is Alexandria Nogueras, and I'm also a student of WPI.
Hello.
Hi, everyone. I'm Anila Azdarin, a student at the American University of Armenia. Our other group member is Alex Rockefeller, and he's also a WPI student.
Sorry, I was muted for that.
So as an overview of our presentation today, starting with an introduction of what we've been working on for the past 15 weeks, then we'll be moving on to a discussion of the methods our group used to complete the project, a description of the results found from the entirety of the project, final recommendations that should be taken into consideration after our IQP ends, and finally, the implications this project has on the Armenian tourism industry. So starting off with our two sponsors, who we're very happy to have here today, are from the State Tourism Committee of the Ministry of Economy, Gayane Avasian, a PR and digital marketing expert, and a member of your PR team, Grace Jerejian.
Now, to reiterate, the goal of our project was to create a short-term marketing recovery plan for Armenia's tourism industry composed of several recommendations we have created according to our objectives. The objectives of our project were as follows. 1, create elements of a short-term marketing plan for Armenia's tourism industry. 2, determine the best path for potential crisis mitigation through expert interviews. Consult with experts and our sponsor to create a list of FAQs and revise the official Armenia travel website, armenia.travel, to become more tourist-friendly. And finally, to create elements of a social media campaign for the current COVID-19 crisis in Armenia.
So starting off with objective 1, or elements of a short-term marketing plan, this objective focused on looking at other countries who've gone through a major event which caused travel to the country to be stopped for a while. So whether it's political upheaval, disease, or something of the sort, we wanted to know what these other countries did to work on repairing their respective tourism sectors to see what we might be able to use for Armenia. So in the end, we focused on Egypt and Tunisia after both countries had major protests to change their governing bodies. So in particular, it appeared that working on safety concerns such as improved measures for tourists who could enter the country post-pandemic would be a valuable area to focus on. Additionally, but no less important, would be an event to show off the artistic sector of Armenia. Egypt did an event called Eternal Light, Something Old, Something New, which connected the old of their country to the modern world. So finally, updating the tourist infrastructure such as hotels, transportation, or resources for tourists in Armenia should be considered. And now, looking at the data collected from a Qualtrics survey we created allowed us to look through the potential tourists to find the most attractive type of tourism for different age groups. This information is extremely valuable because with these types of tourism in mind, the State Tourism Committee can tailor their advertisements by country or social media platform. And finally, by looking back at the elements of a short-term marketing plan, our sponsor should check to make sure they're covering the 3 main areas for this project, or marketing goals, target audiences, and messaging. Marketing goals refer to the targets set by this group within our timeline of 7 weeks. Target audiences are the demographics we're focusing on, whether it be age or origin country. And finally, messaging describes advertisements that will be sent out to the aforementioned audiences. My slide change. Oh, there we go. Sorry, my computer's lagging. As you can see from the graph, the majority of age groups ranked ecotourism to be their highest choice for preferred tourism. However, the results of the survey are a little skewed by differing amounts of each age group answering. So 18 to 25-year-olds had the most responses, whereas 74 to 81-year-olds had the least.
Our second objective for our methods was to determine the best path forward for a potential crisis mitigation plan through a series of expert interviews. In order to do this, we first selected a group of experts and reached out for their opinions on the crisis. This group was determined based on our sponsor and advisor recommendations. We asked questions about the COVID-19 pandemic and about tourism and travel in general to see what impact these experts were seeing and what they were expecting to see. Then based on this, we gave recommendations for a potential crisis mitigation plan to our sponsor. The second objective in our results is about the expert interview responses. Many of these experts had similar opinions about what actions could be taken to lessen the impact of the pandemic, as well as shorten the recovery efforts. The first of these ideas is to focus on domestic tourism, because domestic tourism will be the first form of travel to restart after the travel restrictions are loosened. The second of these ideas is that a large number of people will be traveling immediately after the lockdown is over. People have been unable to travel for a long time now, and a large number of them will travel as soon as they can. The last takeaway is that from our experts was that future bookings are still happening and can be a good source of revenue for businesses to pursue. To supplement the information we received from expert interviews, we conducted a survey regarding travel following the pandemic. People will likely want to travel as soon as it is safe following the pandemic due to the inability to do so for the past several months. As indicated in the graph shown, every age group said that they would prefer travel months after the pandemic is over. However, just over half of the 18 to 25 and 26 to 33-year-old respondents chose that they would travel either immediately or weeks after the pandemic ends. And these are the people that state tourism committees should be aggressively targeting with advertising efforts.
Please apologize the lagging. There's a massive storm where I am right now, so all of my connections are a little slow.
If somebody else has the presentation, they can upload it and share their screen. Perhaps just continue, and we will wait for the slides to catch up if they do.
Okay. The first of our recommendations for the second objective was to ramp up domestic tourism. In order to accomplish this, we recommend that better transportation be provided between towns outside of Yerevan. This can be in the form of marshrutka or hop-on, hop-off buses, which are cheap and reliable forms of transport. We also recommend that sites keep their bookings open in order to keep a cash flow available. The second of our recommendations for this section was that there should be an aggressive advertising campaign. People are much more likely to travel to countries that they have some knowledge of. For this reason, we feel that a marketing campaign is necessary to show what Armenia has to offer, as well as to increase future bookings.
And in our third objective, we focused on a list of FAQs and the revision of the State Tourism Committee's official website, Armenia Travel, to make it more tourist-friendly and draw more visitors in. We received the list of FAQs from our sponsor, edited them for accuracy and cohesion. Then we conducted an online research to understand the potential visitors' needs and wants better, and also update and expand the FAQs to make it as relevant to current global events as possible. At the same time, we give it different website components to come up with possible suggestions and feedback to provide a better user experience. Once we organize our FAQs and website suggestions into a complete document with possible ideas, we shared them with Ghana and Grace, and the solutions our team came up with were discussed and analyzed during our sponsor meeting. The full list of FAQs will be available along with our project report, but some of the examples we considered include the following questions. Are there any cross-travel precautions for Armenia specifically? What are the dog-friendly hotels in Armenia? Is it possible to experience the Armenian village life? And how? As for the website revisions, we analyzed the homepage, went over different links to see how they work, skimmed the visual aspects of the website, and checked the homepage for content accuracy. We also analyzed the annual events calendar of the website and considered possible events to include there and make it work better. Then we came up with recommendations, which will be expanded in the next section. I'll move on. We came up with a number of recommendations for our third objective, but we will focus on the 3 of them for now. We recommend that the State Tourism Committee expands the FAQs as they go to keep up with the tourist flow once the pandemic is over. Additionally, having periodic live Q&A sessions with the social media followers will serve as a method for generating ideas for future Q&As. As for the website, it is certainly an advantage to have it in foreign languages. However, we also recommend translating the website into Armenian, since the information should be available to the Armenian audience as domestic travelers. And our last suggestion is a well-known practice among digital marketers. Hosting guest bloggers who already have a solid position and reputation will bring in more visitors to the website. In a way, guest blogging is a writing exchange practice where both sides benefit in terms of new audiences and the readers of the other representative. So we recommend reaching out to those with corresponding expertise to gain more insight on how to organize effective guest blogging for Travel Armenia website.
In order to create elements of a social media campaign for Armenia's tourism industry as part of our final objective, we reviewed scholarly journal articles, website articles, and direct examples of tourism campaigns to determine the criteria for a successful campaign that our sponsor may want to carry on within the future. We found the following key objectives as seen on the slide, or key elements as seen on the slide. When targeting a specific market, our sponsor should keep specificity and empathy in mind in curating content for their campaign. For example, if we know that we are targeting young adults, we know this includes people under 25 years of age who are likely unmarried and most likely to be involved in adventure tourism. So focusing their marketing strategy on this niche would prove beneficial. We should also address other attributes that may make up this demographic in order to more accurately target this group. And when attempting to increase awareness of the destination, marketing officials should leverage various social media platforms to put Armenia on the map as a destination for its unique attractions. And in reaching global publicity, our sponsor should tailor content to be accessible to everyone, even those outside the target demographic. And encouraging visitors to plan their journey, there are 4 stages that can be used for travel marketing: dreaming, planning, booking, and experiencing. It is important to curate content that targets potential tourists at every stage. For example, when Armenia offers a variety of historic and cultural sites to tourists, Our sponsor may very well promote this information to influence potential tourists into choosing a tour, advise the best time for booking, and highlight the ease of the booking process. And lastly, when strengthening the destination image as a favorite, one of the most successful methods is leveraging user-generated content. Many campaigns use social media competitions, which remain a successful method for increasing visibility when tourists share their experience on the internet via videos, pictures, stories, or other visual media on different social media platforms. As for our recommendations, we propose the usage of different social media challenges and internet trends to our sponsor in order to raise awareness about Armenia as a popular tourist destination among foreigners. Our group has recommended revisions on a motivational film, ideas for Facebook Live shows, hashtags, and taglines to supplement the State Tourism Committee's current tourism campaign. And here's an example of one of the Facebook Live shows to the right of the text with a tourism expert, Albert Pogosian.
So the implications of our project exist predominantly in the short term, and we believe that our suggestions to the State Tourism Committee will cause an increase in knowledge and the tourism offerings in Armenia, as well as build a sense of trust in the visitors. By contributing to the short-term recovery plan, we're making sure that Armenia is ready and prepared enough to overcome the aftermath of the pandemic and continue to host international tourists once borders reopen. And thanks for your attention. Special thanks to our sponsor, the State Tourism Committee, Guyana and Grace, and our wonderful advisors, Noray Benohanyan, Aaron Zakulich, Paula Quinn, and Mark Trudeau. Our deepest gratitude to the Armenia Project Center, AOA, and WPI partnership for making this possible for us. Thanks everyone for being here today. Should you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Excellent.
And once again, sorry for the technical difficulties.
A virtual round of applause for the team. If anybody has any questions, just speak right up or raise your hand. It's entirely up to you. And while we're taking questions, the next team can get themselves ready.
So I had a quick question. This is Julia Dunn. So I was on the Armenia site a few years ago with a team who focused on increasing tourism in Armenia and bringing tourists in. And it looked like a lot of your data followed with what they said. And I was wondering if you look at their website and their recommendations to build off of the work that they did to help target people more closely.
So originally we did, however, because of COVID-19, our project scope completely changed. Our original project idea was to work on a 5-year marketing plan. So instead, everything that we had to be focused hard on how can we help with COVID-19 right now, and how can we increase tourism in Armenia and start building back the tourism economy as soon as possible, instead of waiting for businesses to be able to open and waiting for tourists to be able to come in, if that answers your question.
Great, thank you.
Okie doke, I don't see any hands up.
I'll
Go for it.
Aaron, one quick question. So, great job, guys. That was, a great presentation. I just was curious, how do we know when the pandemic's over? Because you said, some will come a week after, some will come a month after. But did you give thought to, when in people's minds do you think the pandemic is over?
So that data in particular was talking about when the travel restrictions end. So that's how soon people will be willing to travel if they're physically allowed to. Like we don't really have like a good end date per se for the pandemic end. So that's what we just based it off of.
Okay, so travel restrictions.
Yes.
Okay, all right, that's valid. Thanks.
However, to elaborate on that a bit more, according to the predictions of one of the experts we've interviewed, Armenia Zaytuntian, who is the former head of the State Tourism Committee, the domestic travel is going to develop first, maybe even before the borders open, because once this lockdown is over, people will, according to her, people will be more apt to travel to regions of Armenia, which is why she also advised us to focus on aggressive marketing.
One of the things that you had discussed was blogging, and you identified somebody that was an active blogger. Did you identify other influencers that would be potential that maybe we could even engage as, you know, with a fee?
Yeah, so we had a couple of people oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so we had a couple of people in our mind, and which includes Megan Starr and her partner Aram. They are the founders of Absolute Armenia, which is again a travel blog. Another person we identify is the founder of Adventure Escape, which is again a very popular blog. She's a travel writer who has also been in Armenia recently, and she could also be a good source to reach out to. And again, we were thinking to reach out to them and get some advice on how to effectively organize guest blogging, and maybe also try to reach out to the experts they would recommend.
Did I see for a brief moment that Gayane wanted to say something? Oh, go ahead, Mike.
No, Gayane, please go. Okay, I guess she's not on. The thought I have is that if you can show people actually enjoying Armenia again at some point, you know, with active, you know, the people are actually doing it now when it becomes safe to do it. I think that will go a long way to easing people's minds about, or at least encouraging them to join in.
So one last chance. I saw Gayane's hand go up again and then down. You may want to unmute yourself. Perhaps that's what's causing
Yes.
the. There we go.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for such a great presentation, and thank you to the team that we were working. And first of all, thanks for their enthusiasm that they didn't lose even after all these challenges, because you know coronavirus impacted Armenian tourism the most, and not only Armenian, of course, world tourism. And so we were in a situation that we should change all our plans. And it was really a very and we are now also in very challenging times, but the team was very willing to come up with new ideas, and I'm very thankful for all the work they did, and I'm sure the findings that they had as a result of the survey will help us a lot, because and actually all the ideas that we discussed, we even implemented some of them, and I'm sure we'll continue, and we'll definitely use all those ideas that they shared with us, and the survey will be helpful. Thank you very much for your enthusiasm and for your willingness, and to everybody, and to Michael that that agreed to make the tourist committee part of this great project.
Great, that's great to hear. Well, round of applause. And our next team was working on the mobile eye hospital through the Armenian Eye Care Project. I presume that Camden will be sharing the screen. I got a nod. I'm learning this technology stuff. Okay, it's your party. You called it, please.
Hello, everyone. My name is Teresa, and my project partners are Canaric, Anna, and Camden. Our team's project was to maximize the benefit of the AECP's mobile eye hospital.
So the Armenian Eye Care Project's mobile eye hospital has been treating people for 18 years. The initiative was bringing sight to Armenians' eyes They provide free examination, laser procedures, surgeries, and postoperative care. They operate on a 2-year cycle, and the mobile eye hospital covers the central part of Armenia, and regional centers cover the border regions of Armenia. Below, you can see the structure of the mobile eye hospital. It has a surgical room, technical room, and 2 examination rooms.
Okay.
Henrik,
The goal
are you
of our
muted?
project is to, the goal of our project is to maximize the number of patients that the mobile eye hospital sees. For achieving this goal, we decided to divide it into 3 objectives. Our first objective is to minimize patient turnover time and waiting time by using some lean techniques. We also conducted interviews with the hospital staff, and we wanted to generate some recommendations based on their responses. The last objective is to generate a map that will show how the mobile eye hospital trailer covers the population of Armenia. The diagram that you see shows the workflow of our project. The tasks that we had to complete for achieving our objectives were conducting the interviews, identifying node-efficient procedures, and creating the map. As you can notice, the colors of the diagram are the colors of the Armenian flag.
On to our first objective, which is minimizing patient turnover time and waiting time through relevant lean management techniques. So a lean management system or technique is a guideline that attempts to manage an organization through the concept of continuous improvement. Basically, it's a way to improve a process is essentially it. So the specific lean systems we explored were called Kanban and Kaizen. Kanban is a system that where parts are supplied to the hospital on an as-needed basis. A card is used to signal the need for a resupply, and this resupply only occurs when that card is shown. So this image here, it shows the essentially a rough Kanban system here. You see there's a tray in the front and a tray in the back full of boxes. And the process begins with a fully stocked basket. The front and rear are full. And then clinicians or nurses or doctors take from the front bin. And then when that bin is emptied, the cart is moved, signifying a need for a resupply and a need for more items to be ordered. Then the person in charge of restocking moves the items from the back into the front so that they're accessible. And then they restock the back tray, and the cycle continues, and it keeps going like that. This system makes sure that surgeons and nurses have exactly what they need when they need it, and it reduces the amount of inventory, which reduces the amount that is the amount of storage space taken up, and it guarantees that overstocking doesn't happen. The Kaizen system is a model for continuous improvement, and its philosophy is based on the belief that everything can be improved, and it focuses on improving certain, like, more specific areas. So the techniques we looked into are focus PDCA, 5S, the theory of constraints, value stream mapping, and work sampling. For time's sake, I'm only going to talk about value stream mapping because that is the most important of the 5. The other ones they're all important, but they take a lot more explaining than value stream mapping does. So our main recommendation is for a Kanban system that is organized with Kaizen foam. This is essentially the Kanban system I talked about, a bin system that each bin or tray or box is organized with an inset of Kaizen foam, as shown in that picture there. That's roughly what each of the boxes would look like. This makes it so everything that is needed for a certain procedure is available and included in that one tray or bin, and is also very easily accessible, and there's no confusion or there's no way to be unsure where your items are. The next big recommendation we have with regards to lean management is the use of value stream mapping. Value stream mapping is, again, our most important technique recommendation, and it's vital because it shows where waste can be found in an operation. essentially what goes on in value stream mapping is you map out every detail of the of every step or activity that is performed in an operation, and you through this you're able to look at it and see which steps or which activities are actually non-value added. They add no value and can be removed from the process without sacrificing anything. Value stream mapping aids in streamlined processes and helps them to be as efficient as possible.
So our second objective is generating recommendations based on interview responses to save time and increase organization on the map. For that purpose, to better understand how the Mobile Eye Hospital operates, we organized a couple of interviews with the Mobile Eye Hospital's medical staff, as we couldn't visit it. We created 3 diagrams to better understand how the Mobile Eye Hospital works. So this one is a logical flow diagram of the patient. It shows what the patient should do in order to have an examination in the MEH. So basically, they need to go to their local polyclinic or go to the screening organized by AECP. After that, they will get different outcomes. They can get a surgery or laser procedure. They can be referred to another hospital if the Mobile Eye Hospital cannot treat them, or they can be sent back to their local doctors if they have some kind of problems, health issues like heart diseases that needs to be taken care of. And if the patient is applicable for the surgery, after the patient takes the specific test for the surgery, it will be visible whether they can have a surgery or they need to stabilize their health. The next diagram is a swim lane diagram for examinations. It has 3 steps: pre-examination, examination, and the outcome. So every patient that wants a detailed examination, if the local hospital cannot afford it, they can go to the screening in the Mobile Eye Hospital. Based on that screening, it will be they will have a report about their problems or their eyesight, and they can have another outcomes, like again be referred to another hospital or get a surgery or sent back to their doctors with a full report about their screening. So for that purpose, they need to go again to their local polyclinic or screening organized by ACP, get the appointment date and time in Mobile Eye Hospital, and get to the Mobile Hospital, have their screening, and based on that, they will have the outcome. So the reason why we created these diagrams is to make the work of the medical staff easier. Because of the COVID virus spread, it is important to maintain as less people in this same room as possible. So these diagrams may help to organize and separate tasks between medical staff much easier.
The second swim lane diagram shows the detailed steps of patients and the Mobile Eye Hospital staff for surgeries and laser procedures. The pre-examination layer takes place outside of the Mobile Eye Hospital. It includes the steps that a patient needs to take in the local polyclinics where when the patient gets the date and the time of the first appointment in the Mobile Eye Hospital, they can move to the next layer. In the examination layer, the staff creates medical records and does the first examination. The next layer will begin if the patient is applicable for the surgery. The layer depends on the health of patient. If their health doesn't allow to do the surgery, they need to follow the instructions of doctors and to stabilize their health. The next step is to get the surgery. The Mobile Eye Hospital staff needs to sterilize the instruments and prepare the room for the surgery, and patients need to wait in the pre-surgical room. Sometimes staff is able to do the examination and the surgery in the same day. For post-operational procedures, patients need to come to the Mobile Eye Hospital at least once. In the end, the Mobile Eye Hospital staff finalizes the medical records.
So this table we made to approximate the daily schedule of the mobile eye hospital. The data on this table was generated by talking with our sponsor and some of the staff, and this data included how many of each appointment type occurs in a day and the approximate time of day that appointment occurs in. So as you could see in the mornings, it's examinations and post-operative procedures with some examinations going into the afternoon, and then mostly surgeries and laser procedures happening then. After looking over this table and studying some scheduling techniques, we recommend that the mobile eye hospital avoid back-to-back allocation of equipment where possible, since this will make up for any statistical fluctuation in appointment time, and also to have the most time-varying and complicated procedures at the end of the day, so this does not delay other appointments. After talking with the staff, we learned that handicap accessibility is a struggle of the mobile eye hospital. There are 2 sets of 7 stairs that lead into it, and due to the elderly demographic of patients who go to the hospital for treatment, many of them require some level of assistance up and down these stairs. Wheelchair-bound patients are carried by at least 3 staff members. So in order to alleviate this struggle of the staff and discomfort for the patients, we recommend either a foldable ramp or an electric stair climbing wheelchair be put in place. The ramp is the bulkier option, but would allow access for all types of patients, and the wheelchair would be easier to pack and greatly help handicapped patients who are wheelchair bound, because it will no longer be need to carry by 3 people. 1 person could handle this. So after talking with our sponsor, we concluded that increasing the accessibility of the mobile eye hospital will bring more patients to it, as not only will they feel more comfortable in their treatment, but the staff will have more energy and time in their schedules for medical procedures.
Our final interview-based recommendation is the adoption of an electronic medical record system. This could either be an existing EMR system, such as the regional centers all have, or have at least somewhat, or something similar to what other hospitals in Armenia currently have. Or this could even be as simple as just switching from filling out paper forms and storing those in the hospital to handing people an iPad or a tablet that has a PDF form that's able to be filled out. This would save a lot of space on the hospital, because the need for storing all the forms would be eliminated. They could all be stored on the tablet, and the counter space that is currently used to fill out the forms could be repurposed to for something else.
So our final objective was to map the population served by the AECPs and help them determine the mobile eye hospital's route. The map you see here was created using ArcGIS software, and included on it are the population data, which is in blue, the roads in black, and the AECP locations, which are separated into orange for regional centers and yellow for the mobile eye hospital stops. The order in which the stops are visited changes every season, since after the operational season is through, they analyze and tweak the route to make it better for the next time. We suggest that in their next analysis, they use the traveling salesman problem, which is an algorithm for determining the shortest route between a number of locations that starts and ends at the same point. We think this will be particularly helpful for the AECP because the mobile eye hospital has to start and end close to Yerevan, as that is where everything is stored between operational seasons.
So thank you for your attention. Special thanks to ACP sponsor Nene Yekiazarian, Varvara Kalasyan, our project center director Michael Agajinian, IQP advisors Aaron Sakuric and Noray Benohanyan, also all the people who we interviewed from the Mobile Eye Hospital, Asatur Hovsepian, Lilit Karapetyan, Astrid Kazarosyan, Anahit Babayan, and Yeranuhi Nazarian. From Lehigh University, Anna Alexandreska and Lauren Pfeiffer. Thank you.
Excellent. Very good.
Any questions?
Yeah.
So this is Mike Agajani. Thanks very much for your work on this and nice presentation. You've analyzed this a number of different ways and made a series of recommendations. But if you were going to make one recommendation that would make the biggest difference today, outside of a ramp or the wheelchair, what would you recommend?
I would recommend the use of value stream mapping, because, so I don't remember if we mentioned this in our presentation, but essentially Well, loosely, what we did for this project was a form of value stream mapping. All those flowcharts were pretty much all the information we could get being so far away and not being able to actually visit the hospital. But we wanted to get all the details we could about the Mobile Eye Hospital in order to find areas where there's activity that can be eliminated, stuff that's non-value adding, or there's processes that can be rearranged in a way that makes the overall process more efficient. It's a pretty in-depth recommendation and takes a lot to actually implement. But ultimately that would be the best way to increase the efficiency of the hospital and make it able to see more patients each day.
Great. Could you go to the slide 15?
Yeah.
So I hadn't seen this before, but the given, you know, if I look at the central west of Armenia, where the Mobile Eye Hospital spends most of its time, it looks like. Is there plans for a future regional center there?
So the red dot on the map is currently a Mobile Eye Hospital stop, but will become a regional center. So that is the one that's currently under operation. They have not discussed creating another one beyond that one.
Excellent. Any other questions?
Hi, I have a question. This is Julia Dunn again. So I worked with the AACP when I was in Armenia a few years ago, and we were actually the team that brought in the EMR records to the regional centers. And so one of the big questions that we had, and what I'm wondering if you've thought about, is how to incorporate the EMRs into the Mobile Eye Hospital with respect to keeping the Mobile Eye Hospital online and secure while it's seeing patients with respect to having Wi-Fi and access to internet, and as well as security.
Yeah, so currently the mobile hospital essentially docks outside of a local hospital for the time period it sits there and performs and has examinations and surgeries and stuff. So when it's sitting outside the hospital, it relies on the hospital's electricity and running water. So it could also tap into the hospital's network potentially and have internet access that way.
Great, and I had a quick comment too. On your flowcharts, they're wonderful. They're so detailed. And I would just flip them so that you have them going top to bottom rather than bottom to top. But other than that, this is a really great presentation, and I'm so excited to see this project was completed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. I completely forgot to mention it, but I want to thank the team for fixing up slide number 5 that had the Kanban diagram on it. I know we talked about that in a couple of practices, and I think it went very nice this time, so I was glad to see that. If there are not any other questions, I don't see any hands up. If you do have a question, just jump right in. Maybe we will ask the MyStep team to get their presentation loaded. This may be hard to believe, but Levon and I, if you look at the backgrounds, we're actually only about 20 feet from each other. We're in the same location. Okay, take it away.
Hi, everybody, and thank you for being here. We are so excited to share and explain what our project is about and what we have been working on for the past few terms.
Hi, I'm Levon Amiran, and I'm from the American University of Armenia.
I'm Theodora Diniku.
I'm Julia Duffield. And I'm Sarah Lyons, and we are from Worcester Polytechnic Institute. Our project will focus on improving sanitation and the health of students within public schools in Armenia.
Our sponsor, the MyStep Foundation, led by Hovannes Gazirian, is committed to renovating and rebuilding facilities in schools with the most need for intervention. Currently in Armenia, most schools are in some sort of disarray, the areas of most improvement needed being bathroom facilities and gymnasiums. Collaboratively, we aim to improve public health, sanitation, and the current facilities.
So our mission was to develop a toolkit to aid schools in building functional bathrooms and gymnasiums. The standards for our toolkit were compiled from organizations such as the World Health Organization, the Russian government, the American government, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, and was compliant with the American with Disabilities Act. We also aim to prioritize sustainable, locally sourced, and environmentally friendly solutions.
So the target audience of this project is the school students, the staff, and the Armenian community at large. The final results for the target audience should be based on the type of school. For example, primary and secondary schools will have different requirements such as toilet and sink heights or gymnasium equipment. A very important consideration for the MyStep Foundation is the current resources of each school. Some schools need major renovations as they have unreliable electricity or no access to hot water. Based on these conditions, it would make more sense to consider solutions such as solar panels and non-flush toilets. The conditions of the schools need to be evaluated before the renovation to select the appropriate option from the given list. We have developed a toolkit for our sponsor and future users of it, which will suggest necessary changes based on the current condition of the facility. Toolkit provides best practices from different countries, interviews with specialists from the industry, and from well-known organizations such as UNICEF.
Next, we focused on understanding what could be done to facilitate use of the newly renovated bathrooms and gymnasiums. To do this, we researched promotional materials for hand washing and physical activity and translated posters from the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. Finally, for sustainability of the project, cost estimates were created to produce the least cost option while still providing an appropriate solution. A maintenance plan for the schools based on the designs that were chosen was also provided. This includes a plan for bathrooms, gymnasiums, and solar panels.
The deliverables we will be providing are tailored public health standards, the toolkit, and a plan of maintenance and sustainability. The first deliverable we will be providing for our sponsor is a compiled list of public health standards that are specific to schools. This was developed because Armenia's current public health standards are very outdated. They don't take schools into special consideration and do not consider the needs of handicapped students. We sourced most of the technical specifications we found from other sources who are considered as role models within the field of public health, such as the World Health Organization, United Nations Children Fund of Armenia, the Americans with Disabilities Act, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, the Russian government, and the American government. This compiled list of standards will help schools during the renovation process to ensure that their newly renovated facilities are providing students with a safe and lasting facility that will hopefully impact their lives for the better.
So another thing we will be providing our sponsor with is a toolkit we developed. We have developed 3 different toolkits in this project. The first one being a toolkit for compostable toilets versus standard flush toilets. So each toolkit will be used by each school specifically to assess the current conditions of their facilities. For example, the chart below asks the school if they have access to water and hot water, if they have access to electricity, access to sewage lines, and based on these responses, the toolkit will help them determine if a standard flush toilet or compostable toilet would best suit their needs. So as I mentioned, there's 2 other toolkits that we have not shown here. The second toolkit was designed that has several options for gymnasium equipment based on different costs and the different age levels of students. The chart details some instructions for physical education teachers to ensure that the students are getting the proper types of exercise based on the type of equipment. It also has a pros and cons list listed so schools can be informed of all of the benefits and drawbacks from each of the equipment. The final toolkit that we developed looks at whether or not schools should consider converting a space to a multi-purpose room instead of building a gymnasium. A multi-purpose room should be implemented if a school does not already have a designated space that can be used for clubs, before and after school activities, cafeterias, ceremonies, etc. This toolkit also has suggestions on what changes need to be made to fit different needs depending on the school's intended use for the multi-purpose room. So in having all of these toolkits, both the MyStep Foundation and the schools receiving the renovation can make the choices based on their situation that would best fit the school's needs.
A maintenance plan of bathrooms and gymnasiums will ensure sustainability because it will keep the facilities in the best possible conditions for the longest period of time. It describes which materials to use, how to construct the new bathrooms and new design choices. It also involves how to use the new facilities, how to clean them, and how often to clean them. The maintenance plan for gymnasiums has many aspects, but mainly it focused on the two types of flooring. The wood flooring and the synthetic flooring vary greatly in durability, making their maintenance plans different. The choice of material can depend on cost effectiveness, as the synthetic flooring manufacturer that was recommended to us is based in the United States, and if the use of local product is possible, that is the better choice.
We anticipate that the biggest impacts of the renovations will be the renovated facilities, physical activity, and improved health for the students. The renovated facilities will have the greatest impact on schools, as there are some schools who do not have access to hot water, heat, unstable electricity, or proper facilities. We are suggesting that the schools that have these conditions should be prioritized first, as renovations will have the greatest impact there. Standards making the new facilities handicap accessible will improve the inclusivity of the learning environment as well. We are also recommending that the MyStep Foundation get in touch with UNICEF Armenia because they are working on a similar project in 20 schools focusing on bathrooms and handicap accessibility.
Access to proper gymnasiums is another important aspect when it comes to improving public health for students. The impact of this project will help students improve their health. Most Armenian students live a sedentary lifestyle and are not getting the amount of physical activity recommended by experts. Not having an active lifestyle can cause serious health problems down the line and can be a strain on the economy and hospitals, as people will take more sick days at work and be hospitalized. Part of this problem is that their schools do not have proper or well-maintained gymnasiums or equipment, so students are not able to get physical activity during their school day. Another part of the problem is that students are not being actively encouraged to break their sedentary lifestyle, as an emphasis is not placed on physical education classes. By improving physical education in schools, students will have an overall healthier lifestyle.
So access to better sanitation facilities will also improve the health of students. So currently, as of 2019, a total of 200 public schools in Armenia are not meeting the World Health Organization's standards for public health. Many rural schools have outhouses for bathrooms that are with or without functioning taps for hot water. These poor conditions can and have led to disease outbreaks. Now, besides the threat of disease, students can be negatively impacted physiologically by poor sanitation conditions. Females especially suffer high levels of anxiety, depression, and distress while experiencing sanitation insecurity, or from example of facilities that aren't properly secured with misting and or broken locks. So students that are handicapped are also isolated and excluded from using resources that are readily available to their fellow students. And some students avoid the bathrooms altogether, as they would rather deal with physical discomfort than using the bathrooms, which makes it more difficult to focus on learning, which is the reason that they're in school. So by renovating the bathroom, students not only will have better protection from physical harm such as diseases, but they will also have one less thing to worry about and stress about.
So in order to determine the success of implementation, a feedback survey should be sent by the MyStep Foundation to schools who received a new bathroom or gymnasium. The survey will measure healthy lifestyle habits and wash behavior, which is safe hygiene practice. Although the survey might not be able to be distributed during the duration of this project, the results will help MyStep learn about what went right in these renovations and what can be improved in the future.
We would like to take a moment to thank all of the people that have helped us with the project. Without your assistance, this would not have been possible. We would especially like to thank our advisors, Aaron Sekulich and Norayer Ben-Alhanian, and all the people working for the MyStep Foundation that helped us along the way. Does anyone have any questions?
Excellent. A round of virtual applause. I can put my little clapping emoji up. So who has a question? I very much liked this project because where I grew up, outhouses were not terribly uncommon, and I can remember my mother taking me into restaurants and saying, "We only came in to go out. Where is it?" That was still a very common expression when I was a child, 100 years ago.
I have a question. It's Armenia Hovanesyan from Junior Achievement. Do you know how many % of the schools do not have running water?
We do have that statistic off the top of my head. not remember what it
I mean,
is.
is it a significant number or not so? You would remember if it was significant, I would
I believe in rural schools it was around 80%. But that's off the top of my head.
Thank you.
And I see Cynthia, you have your hand up.
Well, maybe this is related to Armenie's question, but like when you show the two, we're all talking about toilets here, but when you show the two sort of toilets, one did not operate above freezing temperatures, which I think is, across Armenia, every region at some point does experience freezing. So does that mean that just the one toilet, the standard, is the only option? And then also there was a pretty big range of $100 to $2,000, and it seemed like that's a huge range. And maybe do you think they would find it valuable to narrow it down more to because there's commercial standards and then just household standards, and for a school you probably want a minimum level of quality so that the high usage, it won't break easily.
Yeah, so to talk about the temperature wise, the toilet will still function below freezing. It's just not quite as efficient, so you still can use it in that colder climate. It's just not recommended for like a super prolonged period. So like if you're in that colder climate for the majority of the year, then like a compostable toilet isn't going to be the best fit for you. And then the price range,
but
that looks at,
but in Armenia, you're talking about the school year. So I'm asking your opinion. Do you think the cold weather is enough to exclude that as an option, just to help them narrow it down?
So we've looked at like the climate within Armenia and like average temperatures throughout the year. And for some climates, like towards the south, or not towards the north, I'm sorry, the compostable toilets probably won't be the best option, but towards the south and middle of Armenia, it's definitely something that can be considered. And then the price range is so large because that looks at incorporating like an entire septic system and looking at incorporating like a septic tank. So that's why that range is so large. We clarified more in our report. That's just a condensed version to fit into these slides.
Anyone else? Mike, what do you think?
So this is Mike Agajanian. So thank you very much for the work that you've done and excellent presentation. Is there a specific recommendation to MyStep that they're going to undertake when they get your report or based on the work that you've done? Is there a specific action, one action that they're going to take, or a couple of 2 or 3?
So part of our project was there's so many schools and all of the schools are being taken into account that we tried to create a solution that they could use like broadly. So we gave them many solutions so that each school, like it could fit each school.
So in the presentation, Levon was talking about the flooring and recommendations regarding the flooring. Is there a specific material that you recommended, or is there, could you describe that to me a little bit more?
We were recommended a manufacturer from the United States, which manufactures flooring for gymnasiums based on synthetic materials. But we thought that based on import tax and other things, it will be not very viable financially to bring those here. Also because of the readily available materials such as wood, maybe that one will be more economically better option.
So is there a evaluation criteria that you developed to select the flooring?
Well, We are basically trying to be as cost efficient for every school as possible. So probably the synthetic flooring is going to be a last option if the other options are unavailable.
So did you define, durability and all of the different things that you wanted to look at to select, to make a recommendation?
Yeah, synthetic flooring is much more durable, but the school principals and My Step Foundation have to decide based on that.
Well, that's actually my question. So are you going to give them the evaluation criteria that you developed so that when you're gone, they can use that criteria to select the best option?
Yeah, so in our report, we've listed that we would recommend synthetic flooring if it's available, because we've only been able to find the brand that was recommended for us by UNICEF in the United Kingdom. So we would recommend them to find an alternative like that if it can be locally sourced. If not, then our second option would be wood flooring, because wood is a readily available resource within Armenia.
So I'm focusing on flooring, but it could be anything.
Yeah.
Did you define how to make the selection of what you recommend? So that when you're not available and they're trying to make a decision, they understand the criteria of how to make the decision.
So that's kind of what our tool, we don't have like a definite or a definitive way of like answering questions and then like it's spitting out like what would be the best solution, because we thought about that, but with the scope of our project and how much it entails, that wasn't going to be a feasible option at this point. So we've just provided like a summary of what we've learned based on researching everything from lighting to toilets to flooring. So we've provided the recommendations based on what we've learned.
So how when math test and the teacher says you have to show your work, or you can't just put the answer there. They want you to show your work so that they can see the process that you went through. I don't know how far along you are in terms of writing it up, but the answer is kind of only part of the solution here. The process that you went through to come up with that recommendation will be very valuable to My Step as they make decisions. So if you can elaborate on why you made the recommendations you made so that they can understand it, and when they have to make adjustments, they'll know, they'll have some idea of what factors to consider when they're making the adjustments.
So that is kind of what we did in our report. We wrote about the different options, and then we wrote about like the pros and cons. So our sponsor, from what we understood, they wanted us to just give them all of the options with all like the positives and the negatives, so that way they could make the choice and like work collaboratively with the schools.
Well, that's actually what I was asking about. Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that.
I will say as the advisor, I think your report answers that question very, very clearly. I'm not sure why the oral part got kind of derailed here. But anyway, was there somebody else? I feel like I interrupted somebody who was just starting to ask a question earlier.
Yeah, I just had a quick question on slide, I think it was either slide 11 or 12, regarding physical education. There's a statement right at the bottom that just says physical education will impact the economy. And I thought that was a really broad statement. And there we go. Nope, 12, I guess. And I was wondering if you might be able to go a little more in depth in that statement of the Armenian economy will profit in the long run from these healthier lifestyles.
Right. So about that, if a lot of diseases are caused by inadequate physical activity, so increased physical activity has been linked to a decrease of diseases such as diabetes, and has also been proven to have an increased mental health. So what will end up happening is people will end up going to work more, using less of their sick days, and people will be less hospitalized. So the economy will benefit from having those people at work more.
Great answer, thank you.
Excellent. We have one team left that was working with the Armenian General Benevolent Union. I'm afraid that we are a little bit behind schedule because I haven't wanted to clamp down on any of the questions. I thought they were very good. Unfortunately, the AGBU sponsors had a meeting at 12. Whom among you can tell me how to give Aneta permission to record their presentation? Do I just find them? I'm recording it as well, but...
Well, I think
oh, there it is.
They were on the call. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
They were on the call when you said that you were recording it.
Yes, and I just saw somebody's advice that I can get to it through the participant list. So Aneta can record. Next time, I will be very much more strict about the questions. Okay, you're up.
Okay, yeah, so I'm Aneta Baloyan.
I'm Nina Giragosa.
I'm Connor Berry.
I'm Molly Wirtz.
And our project is matching diaspora resources to Armenia's needs. Our sponsor in this project was AGBU, the Armenian General Benevolent Union. It is the world's largest nonprofit organization devoted to upholding the Armenian heritage through educational, cultural, and humanitarian projects. We want to thank our direct contacts, Talar Kazanjan, the Executive Director of AGBU Armenia, and Miriam Hambarjan, behavioral scientist with whom we worked from Silicon Valley chapter of AGBU. We also thank our advisors, Aaron Sokulic and Noray Benohanyan, for going above and beyond to help us. Our overall goal of the project was to design a collaboration platform for AGBU that increases engagement and involvement of the diaspora in Armenian projects, while strengthening the relationship between the diaspora, Armenia, and their culture. We accomplished this in 5 objectives. First, we defined the target audience and identified their needs. Then we identified the best practices of other similar platforms. After that, we determined effective features to include in our platform. We then created an engaging user experience and design based on those features. And finally, we created a content marketing strategy.
To define the needs of our target audience, we created a survey and distributed it among various diaspora contacts as well as online communities. Our survey asked questions such as what the preferred type of platform would be, what content and features they would like to see in such a platform. We received about 40 responses, at which point we analyzed the data along with 3 other surveys that we had found. Those surveys were the AGBU Gala survey, which was actually conducted by our mentor, Miriam Hambarchian, the Armenian Diaspora Online survey, which was conducted by Alexander Gavorkian, and the Armenian Diaspora Project, which had reached over 1,000 diaspora members worldwide. We found that although the majority of past contributions the diaspora made was monetary, this is actually the least preferred method of contribution. Across all surveys, diaspora members expressed more interest in volunteering their time and expertise than they did donating money. We also found that issues with past project collaboration had been focused on communication and leadership, and that barriers to contribution included not knowing where to start or what tools to use. To that end, the majority of respondents had said that they would prefer to use a centralized platform, such as the one we designed, rather what they currently use for their project collaborations. We recommended that going forward, AGBU conduct periodic surveys that would allow them to keep up to date with the needs of the diaspora. We also suggested reaching out to previously unengaged diaspora, as well as a much more diverse group than we had been able to reach. Because project leadership had also been an issue in the past, we suggest that AGBU host a project management workshop for the leads. That would improve the overall experience of working in the project, as well as efficiency and effectiveness. Finally, we recommended that AGBU create and promote additional non-monetary contribution opportunities, as the diaspora does want to get involved in this way, but they aren't always sure where or how to. In our second objective, we began the process of identifying the features to include in our platform. To do this, we investigated features from other diaspora and collaboration platforms that we deemed were essential. After narrowing down all of them, we came up with 11 features, including a donation platform, a chat functionality, a user profile, and several others. We used these features as a basis to begin Objective 3.
So the main deliverable of our project is the comprehensive model of our Envision platform, along with relevant recommendations for its maintenance. To finalize the list of essential as well as nice-to-have features for the platform, we started the process from the initial requirements list provided by our sponsor, together with other requests gathered by subsequent communications with our mentor. We then made adjustments to that list based on our research on other diaspora and networking platforms practices. And finally, after analyzing the data gathered from the surveys, we modified the feature list, taking into account feedback, suggestions from the responders. Then we iteratively modeled the result list and made revisions after each mentor feedback. Finally, with our report, we present a list of 30 features in priority order with user stories and element details for each of them. Considering the feedback from diaspora members, we also took into account negative experiences, suggestions, and our analysis conclusions to put together a report of recommendations. And we believe those will contribute to the platform's success and make the experience on both ends easier and more productive. So here are some of the recommendations. First of all, we recommend employing a dedicated team for platform oversight and maintenance. Next, content creation and management recommendation is to have curated content that is relevant and interesting for the target audience, which would be constantly monitored for feedback. Our findings showed that project manager and expert volunteer communication oversight is very much needed. So we recommend implementing a system of reminders, notifications, and tips during all stages of communication within the platform to promote professional and effective collaboration. We also suggest implementing a system of relevant project and event updates, having notifications to keep users engaged and informed about new events, projects, or updates that could be potentially interesting to them based on their profile. Finally, we recommend integrating gamification of engagement within the platform to give further incentive for users to be active, keep coming back, contributing to projects, attending events, and we suggest reward system with points, levels, and badges for different categories, which could be materialized in the form of different benefits or recognition as seen fit by AGBU.
So now on to our fourth objective, which was creating an engaging user experience. Our methodology for this portion of the project was an iterative one. We first began by researching engaging UI elements and then made design mockups based on that research. From there, we wired these mockups together to create our prototype. And then we ran through a series of testing and reviewed the feedback so that we could build upon our previous iteration. So now let's move on to our prototype. This is our newsfeed. This is the landing page when you start the application. As you can see, there are projects to explore as well as updates related to projects that you are subscribed to. We can pan over and look into specific categories that projects belong to. For example, here is a category related to the youth project updates. This page also features general Armenian news that users can consume and share. And next we have the project page. This page highlights general information about the project and encourages donation of time and funding. Also featured within this page are experts on the project various impact statistics on and an update timeline to keep users up to date on the project, including social media updates. So moving forward, we put together a team workspace where experts can have a central hub of collaboration. Featured on this workspace is a list of all the experts on the project, as well as a meeting scheduler for the entire team to take advantage of. Also featured is a team chat functionality, which allows for group communication as well as document sharing within the platform. Moving on, we have our project directory, which allows you to look through projects offered on the platform. You have the ability to search, filter, and sort the directory of projects. And when looking at a project, you get a high-level understanding of what the project is about, as well as project updates relating to that project. We've also implemented a feature that finds projects that are most suited to your areas of expertise. This is the For You button. And we've also given the user the ability to learn more about the project if they so choose. Next, we have the calendar functionality. We've given the user the ability to toggle between different calendars given the subject matter. You can click on different days to see the events that occur on that day. And finally, if you want to learn more about a particular appointment in your calendar, you can click on the appointment to get details. We'll now be taking a look at the events directory. Here you can search and filter through different events put on by individuals or various organizations. If we look into a specific event, we can see details and state that we are going to that event. This will also add this to the calendar that we previously just looked at. We also have the ability to request that our own event be put in the directory, which will be moderated by moderators. And finally, we have the experts directory, which shows you a list of experts that are on the platform. They can be searched specifically, or they can be filtered by their field of work and their location. Here we will filter to see CS or business experts only. And now let's take a look at Armin, a fictional expert in the computer science field. As you can see, Armin is a software engineer working in LA. We can see a little about him, including his links. And we can also see a comprehensive list of his project preferences and his experience within the application. So that concludes the prototype, and based on this, we have some recommendations. First, we recommend that the platform be housed in a web and mobile environment to fully accommodate for user preference. Next, we recommend that the remaining features that have yet to be mocked up be implemented into our prototype that we have provided. And in order to do this, we recommend using our comprehensive style guide to match the typography, the color scheme, etc. And finally, when the prototype can be considered finalized, we recommend this prototype be handed off to a third-party developer in order to bring this platform to life.
Our fifth and final objective was to find out how we could make the platform engaging to the users, specifically implementing content marketing strategies. To accomplish this, we first did some research about content marketing to understand what it is and how it could be applied to our project for the utmost efficiency. Armed with this knowledge, we went further and explored again the 4 diaspora surveys mentioned previously by my teammates, this time concentrating mostly on content-related questions and carefully studying the feedback. We then investigated 10 successful diaspora platforms of other nations, paying close attention to how content was marketed on these platforms. We drew parallels with our project and incorporated our findings in our recommendations of applications of some strategies for our platform. Finally, we went through survey feedback to find out the most in-demand Armenian community pages and explored those to see what content was engaging for Armenians specifically. For this, we did small-scale data analysis using a tool called Popsters. We fed the list of Facebook pages of the organizations we had and ran an analysis of how different components affected the user engagement. To generally summarize our findings, there are 3 main components to platform engagement: content topics, content format, and best practices. Based on our research, the four most engaging topics for the Armenian diaspora are content spreading Armenian culture and identity, general news about the current developments, inspiring success stories about the impact a particular project or organization had, and the Armenian genocide. The most engaging content formats have proved to be videos, photos, event promotions, and generally interactive content. However, regardless of the format, there are best practices that are highly recommended for successful user engagement. The number one piece of advice is consistent posting. Whether it is once a week or once a day, consistency is always beneficial. Next, focus on the impact, cause-based storytelling, and not only creating, but also curating content from other sources.
So, although the name of our project is Matching Diaspora Resources to Armenia's Needs, we believe that this platform is about so much more than just resource utilization and efficiency. Beyond the benefits of productivity, this platform will create a professional and social community for the diaspora that will enrich their Armenian identity and make Armenian culture a daily part of their lives. Meanwhile, the local beneficiaries will reap the rewards of their projects with the support and knowledge of experts and volunteers from the diaspora. With this platform, Armenians all over the world will have the opportunity to connect with each other, rediscover their identity, all while building a better and stronger Armenia. Thank you very much. We welcome any questions if you have any.
Excellent. I will say personally, I did not really know what you meant by doing a mock-up of the app until you had me test it. I cannot wait for this to be available on the Google Application Store. It looks like it is going to be really neat. But you've heard plenty from me this term. Why doesn't somebody else ask some questions?
Thank you, Aaron.
So this is Mike Agajanian, and I have a question. So you mentioned having a third party develop the application. Did you talk at all to the folks at the Armenia Virtual College, which is part of AGBU, which has a large, very capable development group?
So I can take this question. Yes, from the beginning, we've had it known that this platform will be developed by a third-party developer. We didn't look into too much details further than that was AGBU working with any developer that they so choose. That is something that we can definitely recommend, though. We can definitely look into that. That seems like it would be an incredible resource.
I was interested to see what their comments were on what you were recommending, see if you had already talked to them. But that's certainly something that they'll make a determination on whether or not they use their own internal or external. There's lots of development organizations in Armenia that could develop this.
Sure.
I have one more question. So this is kind of a more strategic question. So when you go back to the objectives, which is really to engage the diaspora, and you look at what you've developed, I guess I have a two-part question here is one, how effective do you think this will be in terms of engaging the diaspora? You know, you put a lot of work into this. It's actually very impressive. But do you think it will be effective?
Yeah, I'll take this one. Yeah, good question. At first, this project was to be more lean, but then as we researched into how could we actually make this project effective, we realized that the only way is giving something back to the diaspora and making the platform more than just a donation or contribution platform. And to that end, we implemented, we have our recommendations for, we worked with Miriam Hambartian, the behavioral scientist I introduced, and we designed this different features, like for example, the content and the events page that gives the diaspora the connection. Yeah, and many other little aspects that would make the platform engaging. So the most important, the most difficult, yeah, I would say, part is actually reaching out to diaspora and letting them know that this platform exists, because we would like to say that we did a lot to make sure that if a member is already in the system, they will return back.
And my second part of my question is, did you, as you were doing this, did you come up with any other ideas on how to engage the diaspora that was, you know, separate from the website and the applications that you developed?
So another idea that came up during the development process for this platform, the modeling of this platform, was, of course, engagement part was of utmost importance, and gamification feature that we briefly introduced during our presentation was one of the ways that we looked into to promote the application and make it more engaging. Specifically, we recommend implementing a system of levels, points for different engagement experiences within the platform, like for attending an event or for participating in a project as a volunteer or as an expert. And we also, you might have noticed the badges and the levels during the prototype showcasing. And we have a suggestion to try to materialize those rewards and those points in different forms. Some of them that I can think of right off the top of my head are like having recognition certificates for volunteers and experts that could be shareable on platforms such as LinkedIn, or having just recognizing their contributions through the AGBU newsletters among Armenian communities, and maybe even trips to Armenia for most engaged members. So those are some of the things we looked at.
That was great. That's a great answer. Thank you.
I see Cynthia has her hand up.
Yeah, and you might have answered this question, but is so are you targeting AGBU members, or let's say somebody signs up? How do you know if they're an AGBU member, if it's like on the app stores or something? And then how are you going to pay for this project? Is it self-funding? Are you going to have, you planning to sell the data? What's behind the scenes in terms of, all these free apps? It's because they're free because they're able to somehow monetize the value of the app. How are you going to do that in this case?
To actually answer your first part, this is not exclusive to AGBU members whatsoever. There's definitely going to be options to sign up to AGBU through this app, but the idea is to kind of reach all diaspora generally, and that's through this AGBU funded app. And in terms of monetizing things, there is a donation part to which they can contribute to specific projects or AGBU generally. This is kind of project-based application, so the funding will come from AGBU generally. And this, the monetization part, the value of the application will be that we're able to match resources to the projects, and so that will save time and money on AGBU's part. It will generate money through the donations, but that will be its real value.
So how will you know when somebody signs up on the app? How will you know they're an AGBU member?
We can definitely have a feature in their user profile to link that up with their AGBU account. That's definitely something that we suggested in our report, but weren't able to really demonstrate in our mock-up because it was very minimum viable product.
A little apricot will appear next to their name. And if they're also part of Junior Achievement, they get a little pomegranate.
I love it. Yeah.
That's my recommendation. Just like Duolingo, you should be able to unlock. Oh,
Great job.
okay. So next on the schedule, we'd actually like Junior Achievement to go a second time. I think we all enjoyed it so much. No, I'm seeing some shaking heads that we may not want to do it that way. In that case, that was everybody. I want to thank particularly all of our partners and our sponsors for attending and for working with us over this past term. This has been a very unusual circumstance, but I think everybody involved should be very proud of the work that they've done and the projects they put together. That's what I have. I guess we can hang out just shooting a breeze for as long as we want.
I would just like to say a few things. So first off, I'd like to thank Aaron and Nora for their very, very hard work in this difficult circumstance. And second, everything that Aaron said about the sponsors and about each of the students in terms of the hard work that they put in. You know, it's an unusual circumstance, but through your careers, you're going to run into all kinds of difficulties and obstacles. And I think this was a great opportunity for you to see that something that looked somewhat insurmountable at the beginning of the term ended up being more than surmountable by the results that we see here. You guys did an amazing job given the circumstances that you dealt with. And I think that the sponsors stepping up and being flexible and accommodating really helped a lot as well. So thank you to all of the sponsors. One of the things that I want to make sure that you all hear, and this is a giant request, and I hope that you'll all take it very seriously, is that now you are alumni of the Armenia Project Center. And part of your responsibility is to share what your experience with the AUA students, with other AUA students that are coming up behind you, and the WPI students with other WPI students that are coming up behind you. Because, you know, unfortunately, you know, and I think we're addressing this, but, you know, most WPI students can't find Armenia on a map or know anything about Armenia. And so going to Armenia is not on their list of, you know, priorities. But once they hear about the great experiences that you've had, I think that they will be encouraged to do that, and will be able to continue to get, you know, high performing students like we have this year, and we have already identified for next year. I'm concerned that the level of enthusiasm for Armenia will go down because you guys didn't have an opportunity to actually visit Armenia, which would have been an amazing experience, and I'd encourage you all to do it at some point. But the AUA students and the WPI students, if you could make sure that the folks coming up behind you know about what you did and the important projects that you worked on and the experience you've had, I think that would be very important to the long-term success of the projects going forward. So please put that on your list of responsibilities when you come back into the school year in September. Hopefully we will be physically together.